Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Mike L. This is the world's greatest podcast. We're here to review every single superhero adaptation ever made. And we're joined by the owner of this bar, Champion.
We're in a bar?
Yes, we are. This setting might look familiar, but don't get confused. This is not Comic Book Syndicate. This is TAPED CRUSADERS. We're here to talk about superhero movies and TV shows. So we're joined by Joshua
Murr-VELL. That's right. And yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at Swamp Thing from 1982.
That's right. So if you're driving down the highway and you're listening to this podcast, keep in mind there is another version of this that has picture as well as audio, right?
That's right.
I hope so.
Yeah. So this is, if everything goes well,
yes.
This will be a video podcast as well. So you can find that over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com.
I thought we were doing video only. No
video
audio.
only. Yeah, just
intertitles.
Put the black and we'll have the narration.
Buster Keaton style. Okay.
Yeah.
So
find us on our website or YouTube, Facebook. You can watch the actual video if you want to see our
That's
faces.
right, exactly. So for those that are keeping track, we're trying to review every superhero movie like ever made. And we've made our way up now to Swamp Thing from 1982, okay? Now again, we refuse to do research on the show, but from my hazy memory, I'm going to say that this was based on a comic book by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson, okay?
Okay.
The rights were purchased by Michael Uslan, who also, using the money he saved up from teaching, bought the rights to Batman. That's how cheap. This is how cheap the rights were in the 70s. Yes, his teaching job, and first of all,
Is that how much teachers made in the 70s?
Maybe that's the difference. You're right. The billionaires.
And it hasn't changed since.
Not
it's
at all.
true. He still owns the rights to Batman, which is crazy. But anyway, so the script or the idea was given to Wes Craven, who had already done Last House on the Left, People Under the Stairs, a few other ones. Mm-hmm. He had never really read comic books, or at least read. I don't think he'd ever read this comic book. He might have read EC Comics, but he got familiar with the comic.
I think his family was really religious, so he never actually
read
comics.
That's right. He was very sheltered, we could say.
Yeah.
So anyway, he wrote the script. Now here's the thing: for those that don't know, Champion, are you familiar with the Swamp Thing outside of this film?
No, not at all. I think when we were discussing what we were doing next on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Swamp Thing. I got a copy of that at home. No, I have a copy of The Thing.
Completely different.
Completely different.
Okay.
And
So,
much better.
Much better, yes.
I hope. And I was scrambling around looking for a copy of what I thought that I had. A Swamp. No. And I was not expecting this.
So, just for if you're confused out there, The Thing is a member of the Fantastic Four, but The Thing by John Carpenter is not about the Thing from Fantastic Four. So there's no connection there.
No.
Yeah.
However, this film also has Thing in the title, but this is the Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think what also confused me is the John Carpenter versus Wes Craven. I mean, they're both
directors.
Yeah.
Good
They're
point.
both names that I know.
Good point. So, just for those that don't know, the comic book is considered a classic 70s comic book, okay? But then it was rebooted by Alan Moore. I'm not sure if you've heard of Alan Moore.
Name rings a bell.
Okay, he wrote Watchmen, V for Vendetta, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He's like the most critically acclaimed. What's that?
Saga.
No, that's Brian K. Vaughan.
Oh, did he not also do Swamp Thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of people don't.
Oh, okay.
But we're talking like this is like ground zero for mainstream comics becoming more adult. Basically, with American comics, it started with Daredevil by Frank Miller and Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. This book, I'm not a huge fan of the character, but the book itself was incredible for the 2 or 3 years that he did it. I believe he started writing it after this movie came out, so you can't blame them for not adapting that work. But even the original comic by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson was decent, right? But they decided to throw all that out the window when they did this movie. Now, Ian, you're the master of summarizing plots. Sometimes. From your hazy, foggy memory, can you tell the listeners in 2 minutes or less what happens in this film?
Well, in this film, there's a doctor whose name I don't remember. Is Dr. Alan something?
Arcane?
Yeah, Arcane. I think he is Dr. Arcane.
Dr. Arcane.
Right.
He's the villain.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So Dr.
Alec.
So the good guy is Alec Holland.
Holland.
And the bad guy is
something Arcane.
I can't remember, but Josh will check on his phone as Ian is talking.
Right? We don't have any of our Wikipedia.
The bad guy's
here.
name on IMDb is just Arcane.
Well, there you go. It's Arcane.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
Step right.
Yes.
Quit interrupting.
Yes.
Both
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
So, Alec Holland is a doctor that has been working on some sort of serum, some sort of growth serum.
Yes.
He's trying to combine plant DNA and animal DNA in a way that's a little nebulous at first, but one of the researchers, has died under mysterious circumstances. So another doctor, off-screen, before the film starts. So his replacement, Dr. Alice Cable, is flown in to take his place. And she is taken on a tour of the swamp by Dr. Holland. They develop a little will they, won't they relationship. Then we meet...
I suppose.
Well, I mean...
There's a little bit of flirtation. Remember?
There's a little
Yeah.
bit of
Sort of
well, I
hitting
mean,
on her.
it's one-sided flirtation,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah.
But this is the early 1980s, so you expect something may happen there. But they get back to the lab. He introduces her to his sister, and at this point, there's also a team of commando vigilantes that is running around for some reason.
Straight out of Friday the 13th Part 5.
Right.
Yeah.
One of them's camouflaged with a stick in his hat. And they storm the compound, and the leader of this vigilante mercenary group is ostensibly the head researcher. He pulls off a rubberized mask, and it turns out that he's actually the evil Arcane.
Right.
And he's trying to get this formula for nefarious purposes. Now, Dr. Alec Holland, his sister tries to escape with the formula after they've locked up the last notebook for the secret formula. And she's shot and killed. He loses his mind. He grabs the formula and tries to escape with it, but he drops it. He spills all over himself. There's a huge explosion. He runs into the swamp and jumps into the swamp.
He's on fire, right?
Yes.
Yes, he's quite on fire
Yeah.
at this point. He jumps into the swamp to put himself out. Now, Arcane's group, they destroy the lab, they raze it entirely so there's no evidence of anything. They end up capturing Alice Cable. Now, subsequently, there's a whole bunch of meandering about,
Yes.
trying to get the seventh notebook. Dr. Cable knows where it is. She is tricked into revealing that she knows where it is to Arcane. Every time she's in any sort of danger, this swamp monster in a rubber suit comes to save her. Now, eventually, they're all captured, thrown into a dungeon.
Yep.
Oh boy.
He loses his arm in a sword attack
Oh,
or
boy.
something.
Yeah.
A lot
And-
happens.
So Arcane eventually he is successful in reproducing this serum. They have a fancy gala dinner in order to celebrate this. Bruno, who is one of their henchmen, he's a big guy, but he's very timid and very cowardly. He's heralded as the man of the hour. He's the one that got the last notebook. So they raise a toast. He drinks, and then it's revealed that he has in fact drank the serum, and he's going to be the guinea pig. He turns into this little troll creature and runs away. He gets locked in the same dungeon as the swamp monster and Alice Cable. It's revealed that the swamp monster is in fact Dr. Alec Holland, and he has the same memories and knowledge that he once had. Arcane asks him, how come it didn't work on Bruno? Well, it's because Bruno was a timid troll of a person, and it doesn't make you stronger. This serum, it only amplifies what you already have. So it made him into a little troll creature. So, in spite of all this, Arcane takes the serum himself, seeing that it's turned one person into a swamp monster, another person into a little troll. He turns into a warthog creature and takes a sword. There's they escape when a sunbeam regenerates the swamp thing's missing arm. They get out. There's a sword fight between the Arcane monster, and the swamp monster that's straight out of Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah.
And Arcane is subdued, and that's it. The swamp monster he wanders off
Into the swamp?
Into the swamp.
Yeah.
Alice is like, let me help you continue your work. Oh, with these hands, I will be your hands. No, I'll see you again though.
Yeah.
And he wanders off.
So I've seen this several times. It gets worse every time I see it. Josh, is this your first time seeing this film?
Yes. Yeah.
So just going in blind, what was your impression? How did you feel about it?
It was really bad. At the start, I kind of had high hopes for it. It started off, I think, on a really strong note.
Yeah.
I think that the actors are all really strong. I liked their dynamic. I thought it was really interesting, the idea that they were developing a serum and how they were kind of showing off the serum working with the orchid growing like these huge roots and the wood floorboards that had some of that serum built on it where it's starting to like sprout trees again. Like that's really, really interesting. And then one Swamp Thing shows up. It's just like a weird Scooby-Doo-esque chase where they're like running back and forth between the doors. Like nothing makes sense until the very end. And then by the end of it, I'm kind of tired of Swamp Thing just showing up and fighting, so that when Arcane takes the serum and he turns into the werehog, it's just like it's like
if you came in late, that sentence is insane.
Right. It's just like it's just two dudes in a rubber suit like slowly wailing on each other in a swamp.
The thing is okay, even without reading the comics, you go, okay, this is supposed to be horror. It's supposed to be a man that gets turned into a plant creature. And I realize the key problem is guy in a rubber suit does not work. A puppet would have looked better, right?
Yeah.
Like almost like how in Lord of the Rings they had those tree
Ents,
people, whatever they were called. Yeah. Like something where you can see through him sometimes. And maybe sometimes he has like things growing out of him that can come off, like in the comic book.
Or you just don't show him very often.
But now, in this movie, it's broad daylight. And a guy in a rubber suit. I mean, that's the key. But as far as the writing, the fact that, again, you have a movie about a swamp creature. The fact that in the end, it doesn't end with swamp creatures. It ends with a guy in a rubber suit fighting a guy, what did you call him? A werehog. With a sword. Are you kidding me?
Wild.
So, Ian, what's your take on this film? What do you think?
It was a lot of fun for a while. It was a lot of fun for a while, but then it got very, very tedious.
Yes.
There were a few absolute laugh out loud moments. Like the scene. There's a scene where the Swamp Thing is. I think this is his first big scene, and he's attacking this truck full of people, and he rips the roof off the truck. And
it just floats up.
It flies away.
I noticed that.
It reminded me of some of these YouTube videos of like when somebody's messing with the physics engine of like Grand Theft Auto, and somebody punches a car and it just flies into space. It had that sort of vibe. It's just like this. That it looks silly, but I loved that in spite of how stupid it was.
Yeah,
it was. There were moments. The acting was at times very strong.
Like we'll talk about the actors one by one, but some of them were great. You're right. Some of them were fine.
But there was just a bunch of just absolute ridiculous bits. It's again like it was parts of it were very compelling. Like you were saying, when the serum dropped on the floor and it would grow, and the orchid being rooted into a table, and then
even later on, it's like a gigantic tree.
And he's reminiscing about things. Of course, he's also picking up his sister's locket, and there's a picture of the two of them in it, which was a little bit
strange,
a little creepy. But some things were done very well, and there's a lot of atmosphere. There was a lot of like these callbacks that didn't really do anything, but they reminded you that he has lost some humanity. But then you've got just. It's silly things.
The thing is, I mean, I'm assuming the production was fairly quick. The script was probably not quick, but a little bit thrown together. But I think with what they had, the exact plot, if they would have emphasized different things and de-emphasized other things, like for example, those commando guys, get them out of there. Like have the same plot, but maybe not have them be these like militia type guys. They just. I just don't think they fit in that milieu.
Or amp up the horror aspect and not show Swamp Thing. So that way when they're getting picked off one by one, you kind of are rooting now for the monster.
Sure.
So when it's revealed which it's not even really ever revealed that there's no twist. We know it's him the whole
Yeah, good
time,
point.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to do that twist, it would
Sure.
help you empathize with the monster of the movie.
And the other thing is, going bringing back the guys over and over again. Like apparently the scene later on where they're doing like that boat chase was like out of like a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
That was added later to have more action. Cut all that crap out. Again, broad daylight. Like at least do it at night and make it creepy. And the other thing too is I'm no expert on like swampland, but watching this film, I'm like, this swampland doesn't look exotic enough. Now, we live in Windsor, Essex County, which is the southernmost part of Canada, and we do have swamp-ish areas.
Marshy
We have marshy areas. And I'm looking at this going, this is too close to like us, and we live in Canada. It turns out that a lot of those scenes were filmed in, I think it was South Carolina, which is mid United States, I think.
Yeah, I think mid-south.
Right?
Yeah.
But the story is set in Louisiana. Now, some of it might have been filmed in Louisiana, but my image of Louisiana is much more exotic and, like a little bit more, I don't want to say alien, but like more different looking than what we got in this film. It just looked like the chase scene was filmed in California. They just went out and
I'm
found
sure,
a lake.
yeah.
And you know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like it just looks too familiar, whereas you want Louisiana to look like Louisiana. I think that was part of it.
I was curious about this after watching because it didn't quite look like a set when they were in the swamps.
Right.
Like I wasn't sure how they did it, but yeah, they filmed most of it. Apparently, like 99% of it on location, and there was very, very little done in California for like the swamp thing.
Sure.
They didn't have the budget, frankly, to recreate a swamp.
Right.
To do some of these practical things. Which, speaking of, they had a tiny budget in this movie. It was like $2.5 million.
Sure.
Which is crazy for like a big blockbuster superhero film, even at that time.
Sure. And
Still
again,
could've made a better suit with that kind of money.
oh
though.
boy.
Yeah.
And
Especially for
Or
arcade.
know to
better
hide
lighting,
it.
at least better lighting.
Something.
Hide
Yeah,
it, you're
like
right.
if you know you don't have the budget, you know that all of these cuts are happening, then you've got to figure out ways to make what you have work.
Mhm.
And I think setting it at night would have helped this a lot. I think not having the swamp thing just kind of standing there and punching guys or grabbing them, maybe giving him like some sort of vine thing that comes off of him so you could do like a puppet and it's more like ambiguous what he looks like or who he is.
Anything
or what
to
he
get
does.
him off the screen. We don't need to see
Yeah.
that he is killing people. We
Yeah.
just need to see that people are being killed.
Mhm.
And if, in fact, it's a mystery, well, then it's more tension for us.
Yeah.
But if we look and we see exactly what's happening, oh, a rubber suit guy is beating a guy up. Oh, he's crushing his head down until he breaks his neck.
Mhm.
Yeah, a little grisly, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So let's briefly talk about the actors in this film. We're starting, and again, I might get some of these pronunciations wrong, so you guys can help me out. But let's start off with the guy who played Alec Holland, which is Ray Wise, who I know from Twin Peaks. Have you seen Twin Peaks, Ian?
I've not seen Twin Peaks.
It's excellent. But Josh, Twin
Yeah.
Peaks, I love Twin Peaks. So Ray Wise was in Twin Peaks, and he plays Alec Holland at the beginning of the film. Other than his badly written, sleazy dialogue, I thought he was fine.
Yeah.
Right? What'd you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted more of him.
Right.
Like, strangely enough, their dynamic, their relationship was weird and rushed. Like, I didn't believe that they were romantic
Right.
at all, but I liked their chemistry together and their
Sure.
kind of, like dialogue. So, yeah, I kind of wish that he was in it more, and he was not in the suit either.
This is a good point. Okay, so the guy in the suit was played by Dick Durock. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. He also went on to play Swamp Thing in Return of the Swamp Thing and the Swamp Thing TV show, which we'll be reviewing on the show. But the thing is, though, is that you're watching this movie and you're like, why didn't they just get Ray Wise to wear the suit?
Yeah, you're putting him in a giant rubber costume anyway.
Right.
Apparently, they were just way too different looking in the suit.
But wait, they did. They put Ray Wise in the suit and they filmed half the movie with him. And then as they were filming all the scenes with him, then they'd go, okay, now bring in Dick Durock. We're going to film with him and decide later which one to use. Because apparently this is a Windsor film and they do stupid things like this. And then they're halfway through, they're like, you know what? This is what you're getting to, is they look too different. So we're just going to not film with Ray Wise. We're only going to film with Dick Durock. That's what it was. I know what you're getting to. But yeah, so that was a tremendous waste of time.
That Dick Durock was also slated to play the Doctor as well?
No!
And they were gonna film every scene with both actor?
No.
That would be great.
Not quite, but that would have been one
I
step
don't know why
better.
they didn't put him in the costume for the close-ups. Like when he's acting
you're
and
right.
like they're having that romantic moment like in the forest when he's missing the arm, like
Yes.
their dynamic together would have been great.
You're totally right.
I can't help but notice that it's a human's face. It's a man's face,
Yes.
but it's not his.
It makes no
If it was like
sense.
more distorted, it wouldn't matter. You know
But
what I mean?
it was very
But-
much Dick Durock's face.
Right.
Yes.
Whoever the hell that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Yeah,
right.
so it just didn't work. I don't know. I think the costume as a whole didn't work for me. I think the sculpting, when it's still, I think it looks great. But when it starts to move and you can see that it's just a big rubber suit, or when you have a close-up and you can see the mask covering his bottom lip and then you see his lip kind of coming over the mask like this, like it just kind of breaks that illusion.
I agree. A lot of things broke the illusion, but
yeah.
that was only one of them.
And anytime you can see a character's nether region on screen long enough in a suit like this,
And it just
you're aiming the camera at it too much.
missing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just-
and it's just absent.
It
Yeah.
looks like a cheap costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just green and smooth. Like at least if it would have been like branches and leaves and something, but it was just like a big rubber smooth suit. Like it was
Some
almost
vines taped on.
yeah,
there.
like it was bad. Let's talk about Adrienne Barbeau, who was also in The Fog. She was also in Escape from New York. I thought she was fine in this.
Yeah.
I thought she was good. No complaints. Ian, what do you think?
She played a perfectly good damsel in distress without being annoyingly damsel-y.
Right.
Yeah, she was annoyed a lot of the time as a scientist.
Yeah.
Maybe that's appropriate.
I guess she wasn't a typical damsel in distress because with the sequel they brought in Heather Locklear, so she was more of a typical
okay.
80s girl. Adrienne Barbeau is different.
Yeah, she had like a Sigourney Weaver type of vibe to her.
Yep.
Yeah, no, she was great. I also liked her dynamic with the kid too. I almost wished that the kid was in it a little bit more, which is weird because normally I'm like, these kid actors are not great. Like, have them in there and then kind of get them out. I kind of like
He was
them.
adolescent enough.
Yeah.
He wasn't annoying, and he had this weirdness about him that was endearing.
Yeah.
And it didn't come
Yeah, he
across
had
as
like a
being-
Goonies kid kind of vibe. Like he had
Yes.
a lot of character to him. And I would have been more scared, I think, for the characters if I knew that he was in trouble.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
So
Well, which brings us to our next point. The best actor in the movie, Reggie Batts, who played Jude. He was so good that you didn't even realize he was acting. Now, apparently, he might have had some theater experience, but he was not a union actor. They basically used him because he was cheap. He was around. It's like, okay, let's use that guy.
He just happened to work at the gas
Yeah,
station.
he
Yeah,
just-
exactly. Here, say these lines. No, seriously. As soon as he comes on screen, every time, because I've watched this movie many times, I'm like, here we go. Did he write his lines himself? Because his lines were brilliant.
yeah.
Like, remember when she asked him, she says something, is there a phone in here? What kind of joy you think this is? Or something like that. And then remember, okay, so in the spoiler alert, he gets
She asked for the gun.
the gun. That's
what
it.
kind of a CD joint do you think this is? Of course we have a gun.
Yeah, of course we have a gun. He's
great.
Just, and
Yeah.
the delivery was never trying too hard. It was always brilliant. And spoiler alert, he gets killed, but he comes back. But he gets killed, and when the Swamp Thing revives him, he puts his glasses on and looks up, and he's like, there goes the neighborhood. That's his reaction to seeing Swamp Thing for the first time. So yeah, he was my favorite actor in the movie, and like you said, I wish he would have come back. I wish he would have been in it more. Like he was great. And then I guess the only other actor to really talk about is Louis Jourdan. I think he's French. I thought he was perfect as the villain.
Arcane?
Yeah, I thought he was great.
Yeah, and I think he really hammed it up. I love that about it. I think that because the costumes weren't really great and the story was kind of dry, he kind of elevated it at times. Like his overacting, his like campiness was perfect, I think, for the movie.
He was deathly serious.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, it was great. And I think that the story, like the script, needed a little bit more of that campiness. And I think maybe I would have been fine with it.
I
Some more
agree.
campiness and then something creative for the middle. Like nothing happens in the middle of the movie. Like
I agree.
it's just Swamp Thing messing around with some bad guys for like what seems like forever. Like it drags on for so long.
I agree. They stretched out like 45 minutes worth of material into 2 hours, into 90 minutes or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah, I agree. I do have to say, I do like the idea of the other guy becoming like a dwarf creature.
Right.
Because it's kind of like the opposite of what Swamp Thing was.
Mm-hmm.
But then the fact that the third guy becomes a werehog. Again, you're thinking that I thought the whole idea was like vegetation and animal DNA merged together. How is that a werehog? That's just like, oh, we have this suit left over from, some troll movie.
Right.
It was just, that was horrible. But
Well,
anyway.
Yeah.
it seemed to not really follow its own setup. At
Yes,
that point,
exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not-
They were trying to. It was supposed to be plant DNA and animal DNA being merged together, but at the end, now it's just this serum that amplifies what you already have.
Yeah.
and I guess in the doctor's case, I guess he had some like plants in his lungs or something. At this point, it didn't seem to really follow along.
because we
and then-
don't really see the whole idea of the plant and the animal combining.
No.
Like, I guess you can say that happened with Swamp Thing, but I just assumed that it was like him falling into the swamp with that ooze all over him, like merged it, right? And then the goop, if it's plant DNA, it was combined with the other plants. So was it animal DNA in that green goop that, when spilled onto the plants, made them stronger? Because that's what happened with the tree and with the like the orchid and the floorboards, right? So I don't know.
Only
it's
Wes
not-
Craven knows for sure, right?
It's not really clear.
No. So I'll just say this again: if you're interested in more Swamp Thing, Ian, as we said, there is still Return of the Swamp Thing. There's the Swamp Thing TV show in the '90s. There's another Swamp Thing TV show like
Animated TV show
3 years
that
ago.
had 5 episodes?
There's a cartoon. They only made 5 episodes,
Yeah.
then it was canceled. So the Swamp Thing has been somewhat popular in the media for a long time.
Does it get less campy than this? At any point, does it?
It gets more campy, and then
And
I think
then it gets
maybe
less campy.
yeah.
I did not see the new TV show. Did you?
Neither did I. No, it was like
Okay.
a DC Universe streaming service thing that I don't even think we got in Canada.
Probably not.
So I don't even know where you can get it now.
I'll just
After the first episode came out, they canceled it. So let's just say that, the day, like the premiere
Yeah.
day of Swamp Thing, they're like, yeah, we've actually
No.
canceled it. We're not going to be renewing it.
Oh boy,
So
low morale. But keep
Yeah.
making 4 more anyway. So here's the thing. Even despite what we've said, if you've not read the comic by Alan Moore, please pick it up.
Great.
Volume 1 begins with, I think it's issue 21, the anatomy lesson. Absolute masterclass writing. Definitely pick it up. Ian, are you gonna watch or read more Swamp Thing?
No, I think I'm Swamp Thing
Okay.
That's fair.
out.
Oh, okay, okay.
There were some golden moments in this one for sure, but no, on a whole, this was a disappointing.
Well, since you've done several episodes with us, where do you rank this in the?
Ooh, we
Compared to
should
the-
start doing a ranking.
Yeah,
That would
like
be really
Flash Gordon,
fun.
Buck Rogers, whatever
And we
else
could
talked
update
about.
it each week with like
Yes.
where
Yeah,
that would be
good idea,
great.
good idea.
Yeah.
I push a lot of these films out of my mind after we're done.
That's
with
fair.
It's
Sponge
it's
them,
like
yes.
it's trauma.
Even this one, I had like on my way here, I was like, "Oh, what happened in it?" I
Yeah.
can't even remember half
Well,
the
there,
stuff.
this one at least has some memorable moments.
Sure,
Yeah.
right?
sure.
The roof getting ripped off, the thing, the sword fight at the end, where
For some reason,
for some reason, Swamp Thing. Do you remember the part where during this sword fight, Swamp Thing uses Alice Cable as a shield and she gets stabbed? Like he just
Oh.
pushes her towards the
he kind
werewolf.
of does, and then
And
he has
she
to use some moss to
uses
heal her
his-
up.
his
Yeah.
healing moss.
Yeah, there's some
This is-
questionable moments in this.
Okay,
Yeah.
but no. In terms of a ranking, there are more memorable moments in this than say Captain America.
Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
forgot about that. Oh my
Maybe
god.
forgot that we watched that entire film.
Yeah.
Or Buck
Rogers was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon was a little bit better. Than
I would
this,
watch
I
this
think.
over Buck Rogers
Yes.
any day.
I'd watch this over Doc Savage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Could this be the best one yet?
It's I'm loath to say that it's up there because it's not to give it any sort. I don't want to give it any weight.
The
It's
best
just
of the worst.
the best of the worst.
Yes.
That should be the
That should be the name of the show. But to be fair, Ian, you were not with us on our pilot episode where we reviewed Superman 1 with Christopher Reeve, and we reviewed Adam West Batman. So those were obviously better than this. Yeah.
And then you.
Yeah. But guess what? We have good news because in our next episode, in our previous episode, if you remember last week, we talked about Superman 2. So that's actually up there as well. We didn't review it yet. But that's up there in our ranking. And on our next episode, I'm going to check this as Josh is going to tell you where to watch our episodes.
That's right. You can find all of our stuff on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. We're starting to slowly shift over to have video podcasts, so you can also check out our YouTube channel and Facebook as well. We talk about comics, movies, TV shows. We are kind of watching the newer stuff, but because of the strikes, we are not talking about them and releasing any of the
That's
stuff.
okay. These aren't released either until
These
the strike.
aren't-
No, none of
that's
these. That's
true.
So you'll be watching this when the strike is over.
Yeah, never mind. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about the movies, the shows, the comics we're talking about. Keep in touch. Leave us some comments and reviews.
And Ian, I'm starting to get worried we're going to scare you off with all these bad movies. So guess what? Next week, folks, this is the big one. Join us for Scarlet Pimpernel
What?
with
Excuse me?
Champ Ian. See you next time.